Wait, hold up. We've done this before. Let's try something new. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome to Rage Against the Mainstream, your full spectrum source for all things music, insight, and opinion. Today is February 15th, 2021. My name is Bill. I'm joined here today, as always, with Steve.
Greetings.
So what's going on, buddy? How you feeling today?
Doing well. Weather's getting a little chilly. I'm getting older. Bones are starting to creak a lot more than normal. I really thought we were in for an easy winter the way it shaped up. Other than that one snowstorm,
yeah,
it was like not bad. 45-degree days. I wake up this morning, I'm like, ugh.
Unless you're hearing this, well, obviously this is coming out in February, but we're recording this in January. On this particular day, it's 26 degrees outside.
I think the wind chill makes it like 20.
No, actually, I read earlier, wind chill 14.
Oh, geez.
So 14 degrees. I mean, that's the thing.
We're complaining. There's people, I'm sure, in other parts that listen to this
warm.
where it's like, you poor Americans. You're weak.
And at the time of this recording, I just want to thank you all of our peeps out in Germany, getting us on the iTunes charts.
I myself am a respectable German. Last name means home. It's the homeland.
But
speaking Sie Deutsch.
But I want to thank everybody for helping us get to that point. I mean, it's a chart nonetheless. It is cool.
Yes.
Who would have thought?
Yes.
We were on the American charts too, but we got knocked down like the 17 spots that took us off the top 250.
It's all right. We're in a tough world over here.
We're in a competitive market.
Indeed.
We like to try to market ourselves as different. And, sometimes that makes you fall in between the cracks.
Yes.
But nonetheless, it is still pretty cool coming from, us not really having nothing really in the podcast world besides this.
Basically us recording ourselves talking about shit we normally talk about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing, there's an ass for every seat or a lid for every pot, and there's got to be people that have these exact same conversations. Mm-hmm. Like, there really does.
100%.
Like, there's no way me and you are the only ones that talk
Definitely
about,
not.
Fucking...
Definitely not.
Death at length.
This is why I like social media to an extent, because you get to pick and choose on who you engage in, and if you just follow certain Reddit profiles or Instagram profiles, you can see, obviously, there's people out there who do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. And... we're just fortunate enough to have the resources and means to be able to do this. Actually, as a matter of fact, if any of you out there wanted to get into podcasting,
I was just going to say
it's very easy.
Feel free to join us.
It's extremely easy. Let's build this community strong. Let's
opportunity to get on to it, as we say over and over. We've been on the ground floor, it seems, for years now, but still have the opportunity. If you want to join and get in on the ground floor of something that could potentially be something one day,
get us on our social medias. Instagram and Twitter at RATM Podcast, Facebook.com/RATM Podcast. And, if you want to submit an application, you can reach us at ratmpodcast@gmail.com.
The way we slipped that in there, you would think we were getting paid to talk about our own profiles. Like, I feel like we have all those, like, hey, Jim, where'd you get that shirt? Well, Frank got it at Express.com. At Express, you can wear it, like, you know what I mean? Oh, my God.
So, have you encountered anything new or interesting in the past week?
I actually encountered something new before we even started talking, literally.
Your flashlight's on, by the way.
Well, that's no good.
That'll kill your battery right quick.
Well, that's probably why it's at 15%. Anyway, Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
Our beloved inaugural band that decided to perform at the inauguration in extreme punk rock form for them.
Super punk rock fashion.
They have a new album coming out called Medicine at Midnight. As of today's recording, there's 3 songs currently released. Now, since like I said, just found out about this, I have not listened to these 3 songs, so I'm not willing to
I heard
commit.
Shame, Shame.
You have heard Shame, Shame?
It's a fucking joke.
Is it bad?
Dude, like, After the show, I'll let you. Well, obviously, I'm not gonna like let you hear it, but you'll hear it after the show, and you're gonna be like, "Are you fucking for real?" Like the last album was
this
better.
Titles like Making Fire, Cloud Spotter. The songs that they have released are Shame, Shame, Waiting on a War, which I can only imagine.
I heard that
that's about.
too. That sucked.
And then No Son of Mine is the other one they have released.
Dude, it's just like we talk about the Foo Fighters and their beginnings, you know, and like their punk and like grunge roots and everything, and you know,
Are they really committed to a mainstream effort?
This is like if the last one, Concrete and Gold, if that was mainstream, this is like even beyond that.
This is like we're literally making songs for commercials at this point.
Pretty much, and it's like I don't know, like maybe I'm just out of touch with the times, but like hearing these songs,
like in bring this up, like South Park when Stan becomes cynical.
Pretty much. Well, I'm listening to these songs and like I can't catch like a melody I can get down with.
Yeah.
Like no memorable lyrics.
Yeah.
Like just nothing. Like nothing that reminds me of the Foo Fighters that they used to be.
Yeah.
Like that's gone. Like that's dead and gone now.
It's a shame because again, the thing with Foo Fighters is because of the reputation behind Dave Grohl, it made it that much more easier to want to engage and hear what was going to come out of somebody that had a connection to something so great. And Foo Fighters, for me, they get a huge, horrible rep due to the direction they're heading, and they consistently continue on that path.
The commerciality.
Yeah, but Color in the Shape is still a good album. The self-title is still a good album. Like, they still have some decent tunes. But they're becoming one of those bands where we talk about it. You know, one of the bands that we've talked about in the first season to an extent that I don't think we should ever talk about a band ever again. They released 4 phenomenal albums and arguably a 5th great album to a point where everything they've released since is still not going to tarnish what they were able to establish. Foo Fighters, to me, doesn't have that credibility. Like, they're ruining, to me, my opinion and my view on what I had for Color in the Shape, what I had for the self-title. Like, they're becoming a band that I don't even really want to go and I just don't want to listen to anymore. Like, Everlong, if it comes on, I'm still going to fucking listen to it, and that's the one song that, to me, is always going to hold its weight. But everything else, it's...
Like, I got suckered into listening to the 2 new Foo Fighters songs. Actually, no, I got suckered into listening to Shame, Shame. Because I was like, oh, Foo Fighters playing Saturday Night Live, whatever, I'll hear the song. And, like, I was like, all right, this has just got to be a live version.
Yeah.
Like, the real version's got to be better than this. Was not.
Well, it's the thing with them. There's certain bands where I talk about it. Like, Megadeth's going to release a new album. There have been talks about recording. Yeah. And everything they've done, I want to say since Maybe, has been dog shit, in my opinion.
United
System has
Abomination
failed.
sucked.
You know, Dystopia, I listened to it because Chris Adler was on drums.
I did like Dystopia, though.
It was okay. But here's the thing.
It wasn't, Countdown or Rust or,
Peace Cells,
or,
But here's the thing. That's a band that holds enough credibility where I'm going to continue to listen to their newer stuff just for the hope that something's going to come out.
Yes.
You know? Foo Fighters is that band. I can't tell you the last full Foo Fighters album I listened to. Like the latest release of theirs, whenever
the last one I listened all the way through and enjoyed it was Wasting Light.
Okay,
and that was 2011. Like we're almost
that's what I'm saying. So
we are talking.
That's what I'm saying. With
ago.
This album, I'm probably going to listen to one song just to hear what you're talking about, and I probably won't even.
Do you want to be disappointed?
Yeah,
because Shame's pretty bad, but that Waiting for a War, that's pretty fucking bad too.
Okay, so I'm going to definitely have to. All right. I did want to say, though, in a lighter note, that something I did discover that I recently discovered a few weeks ago, and it finally released the whole thing, the Asphyx album.
Oh, yeah.
It's not, I said it was Necroceros, but I listened to the song. It's called Necroceros, I guess. They wanted to get real fancy, like it's a fucking
don't try to
dead
church it up,
dinosaur.
son.
I don't know what it is. Like, oh, watch out for the Stegosaurus and the Necroceros. Just fuck me up, Necroceros, whatever.
Every time I hear names like that, I always think of that scene in Joe Dirt. Don't try to church it up, son. Your name's Joe Dirt.
But that album fully released, and this is the thing with that band, and we discussed it when I showed you the one video, is like, the vocals for that band are kind of a acquired taste because it's more of like a raspier death growl, I guess you could say. And I like the album. It's a very mid-tempo. There's a couple like thrashy, 1-2 parts, a lot of 4/4, and then but most of it's mid-tempo, and it's very, like you said it too, like reminded you of Carcass.
Yeah.
To them, I can put in that like gore scene of like Exhumed, Carcass, and they have a really cool sound. But these guys have been around since the 90s, so for them to drop a new album in 2021 and be this good, I dig it.
Dude, I've always been a fan of like the groove metal thing. Like even, I don't really like people claim Pantera, but I don't really see Pantera as like groove metal.
Oh yeah, I do.
But like
I put them in there. Like White Zombie. White Zombie's perfect. Like,
White Zombie's like fucking like the epitome of groove metal.
Yeah.
Like, well, there is some Pantera songs where it's like they're fucking groovy. Like actually a lot of them, but like I still consider Pantera to be like a fucking.
You could dance to Heresy.
You can?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I don't. Pantera is like one of those bands to where. Like I can't give like an exact like genre like
it's sludgy heavy metal. It's just sludgy.
Like it's just heavy metal to me. Like it's just like it's Pantera.
I honestly every time I listen to Pantera I think like of a steel mill.
Yeah.
Vinnie Paul's drums they just make me think like I'm at a steel mill. I don't know what it is. Like and reinventing like everything they surrounded themselves with in the time.
It was all metal. Yeah. It was all heavy metal.
Pantera is just like for a fight sequence in a movie. You could probably pick any Pantera song to play behind that.
And like, when shit's getting ready to go down, that fucking breakdown and domination.
Oh yeah.
Like honestly, I shared that one meme like a couple years ago where it was like, like the heaviest things in the universe, like a neutron star, and like whatever, like blah blah blah, or a kilogram of mercury or some shit. Then it's like the breakdown and domination.
Yeah, it's that good, especially on like a real headset, and it's like,
oh my god,
oh yeah, dude.
The best, dude, is when you watch the live video from Moscow.
Yeah.
And like they slow it down.
Yep.
Like by like fucking like 10 BPM from the album, so it's like really heavy.
Oh yeah.
Pantera was ahead of their time with the breakdowns.
Way ahead. And they're because going into what I'm going to talk about later with the main topic for today, they're a band that were able to kind of like continuously change their sound throughout their career and make it work.
Yeah, Pantera is just.
I feel like Dime got better every year almost with guitar.
He got better
like
with every album.
You figure Cowboys was obviously a total 180 from what they did with power metal.
Oh yeah,
complete 180. But then Vulgar comes out. Far Beyond Driven is arguably some of the best metal guitar work you will ever hear out of any band of any time.
Well, I also feel like as they went down their discography, obviously we're getting way off topic here with Pantera, but
this is what happens.
Like as their like album cycles and shit started going through, more and more of Dime's like influences started showing.
Yeah.
Like his solos started getting like more bluesy and like less harsh. I mean, granted, there were still songs like that. But like, for instance, like when I try to show people when I'm like trying to convince them that Dimebag Darrell's like one of the greatest guitar players ever, and he deserved to be higher than like 80 something, Rolling Stone. I show him Floods.
Phenomenal.
That solo in Floods, honestly, like, dude, talking about it, I made the hair stand with my arms. Fucking that solo is easily in my top 5 favorite solos of all time.
Great Southern Trendkill is just every album, man. Even Reinventing the Steel, and we're going to get out of this rabbit hole, and I'm going to ask you what you've seen that's new or interesting, because I started with fucking Foo Fighters, and we're just like sucking Dimebag Darrell's dead dick right now.
6 degrees of separation with Dimebag.
Dude, but Reinventing the Steel was something that I really hated on for a long time, just because of the quality of it compared to where they set the bar. But then I thought about it more and more that I'm just hating this album because it's not as good as their other shit, but it's the same band and it's still that good. Yeah. I would take Reinventing the Steel over probably some of like the more notable acts today of their best work.
Yeah,
I would take Reinventing the Steel for anything Ghost has ever put out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like band,
and I actually like
even
Ghost.
Fucking what the hell's that one band with the whales? Gojira. I would take Reinventing the Steel for anything they ever put out. I know you're a Gojira fan, so that's going to be more of a debate.
I do like Gojira, but I mean, Pantera's Pantera.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I just think there's something about the quality of work that Pantera put out throughout their career. Yes. It's almost in the same realm when we talk about bands that were repetitive in a sense of like Slayer, Motorhead. But the difference with Pantera is that they still provided a level of depth and talent that wasn't just repetitive music.
Yep.
You know, like it was repetitive for them, because it was fitting the same core, but they didn't do
Yeah,
Master of Puppets to Reload type shit with
like honestly
Vulgar to Reinventing the Steel.
Like if you want to do like the Pantera to Slayer comparison, I feel like Phil Anselmo is a better vocalist than Tom Araya. Rex Brown is definitely a better bass player.
I only
than Tom
think
Araya.
the only vocalist I would take over Phil Anselmo from that scene is Joey Belladonna. I think Joey Belladonna just had the pipes to be the most versatile vocalist in that entire scene.
Even to this day, dude, he still has the
great.
versatility.
I've seen him God knows how many times.
Did you know that
in the
he
past
actually
couple
fronts
years.
a Journey tribute band?
No fucking way.
Swear to God.
That's pretty impressive.
Joey Belladonna.
He's got the pipes, dude.
He's a good singer.
He's phenomenal.
And that's actually how he got into Anthrax.
Yeah.
They heard he was a good singer, and he was like, I'm not even into this thrash shit. Like,
he was
I
perfect
fucking
for
love
it.
Journey. Like, this is
Perfect
my
for
shit.
it.
Yeah, and it worked.
Yep. Spreading the Disease is such a goddamn great album.
However, I think that's also
of
why Anthrax is like the lesser of all those bands.
Why?
Because of the vocals.
You think?
Yes.
That's a shame.
Because like you think about it, I mean, I like Anthrax, I really do, but like in certain instances, Joey Belladonna doesn't fit with the music to an extent because of how good of a vocalist he really is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you think about like Metallica, like James Hetfield fucking fit. Like me personally, I like John Bush. I like John Bush a lot in Anthrax.
You know what I always thought? And it's sad. Okay, before this, we're definitely
I didn't even do my unit.
I don't know what just happened. So listen, the only thing I will say is when we talk about the vocalists of that scene in particular, we always wind up for this because I think they're just like the epitome when we talk about anything in the metal rock genre.
Yeah.
It's just the most cliche way to describe differences.
It's like BC and AD,
Basically, yeah. For the vocalists of that scene, I always thought to myself, if Megadeth had a dude like Chuck Billy from Testament doing vocals, because no disrespect to Mustaine, phenomenal guitar player, but man should never have been behind the mic. I think that is the one thing that kills me, especially later on in their career, that his vocals just did not give me the same, like Testament, for instance.
Yes.
Testament is a very good band, never got the recognition that those bands got, and
Nope.
Chuck Billy's vocals on a Megadeth song would have been so fucking awesome. And then that's the thing that always there's something about every one of those bands that really holds them back.
Exactly.
Like Slayer, you could throw every solo with the exception of what Jeff Hanneman was able to contribute to the band. Like Kerry King, you could throw every solo he ever did in the trash and I would know no different.
Exactly.
Every album should have been Saint Anger technicality for them and just keep your fucking, chugging riffs and, Tom's Satanist
I think it's bullshit that we
approach.
have to have a no solos rule.
Yeah. Sorry, Kerry. You had your shot. It's like in football, dude. If you go out there and you don't perform, like you're on the bench. So at some point, you got to rest those solos. Got to put them
Your
to
last
bed.
draft pick next season.
I picture like they're all in the recording. Like, oh, here comes the fucking whammy bar from Kerry. Yeah. Anyway, Bill, anything new or interesting outside of this shit, whatever just happened for the past 20 minutes? There?
Yeah, actually, I'm taking a total left turn.
There we go.
I wound up listening through recommendation of you, Ghostface Killer's album Supreme Clientele.
Yes.
It's actually going to wind up being my suggestion of the week as well.
Phenomenal album, man.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to give you a little backstory. What actually brought that up, there's a guy I follow on Instagram. He posted his top hip hop albums. I want to say the top 10 of them, 6 of them were ones that I had thoroughly listened to.
Uh-huh.
2 in particular stood out, which was, I believe, Outkast's first album, which then was like, wow, I haven't listened to that since I was a teenager. And then Supreme Clientele, and I was like, holy shit. I think I listened to that a couple times when I was younger, because I was a huge hip hop fan. That was like my genre of choice when I was a teenager. Just where I grew up, who my sister's older friends were, what I was into. But Supreme Clientele, man, like Nas's Illmatic gets a whole lot of reputation. Everything Biggie and Tupac did, but Ghostface Killer's Supreme Clientele has got to be in a lot of people's top 10, at least, if they're a true hip hop fan.
Well, what I feel like is Ghostface and, pretty much everyone from Wu-Tang, with the exception of like Method Man,
Yeah.
they kind of like fall under the radar because Wu-Tang wasn't up to that level of like the Tupacs or the Biggies or the Snoop Dogs.
Yep.
They have always been and forever will be known as that like underground rap,
Of course.
rap group. And
Yeah, like even Jizz's like Liquid Swords, which I recommended several months ago. It's just such a fucking phenomenal album because where they came from. I honestly think the guys, if I had to do a pound for pound discography of group members from Wu-Tang compared to NWA, I think the Wu-Tang Clan definitely had way better
fucking
solo
doubt.
careers.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, even if you count like Dr. Dre's The Chronic and Chronic 2001.
Every Ice Cube's discography. I mean, I just think that there's a lot more talent in what came out of Wu-Tang.
I honestly feel like Ice Cube is like one of the most overrated rappers of all time. He is the Slash of rappers.
You know what's cool about that, though? If you think about it, because we're talking East Coast, West Coast differentials, I wonder if just people who grew up on the West Coast like find a different vibe with that hip-hop, and that's why they like it more.
Because honestly, like listening to Ice Cube versus like pretty much anyone else, Ice Cube's style is very like rudimentary. It's very like it's very elementary style of rapping.
Yeah.
Like, as opposed to, I know I say Eminem all the time, but if you compare, like, Eminem's rapping to Ice Cube, or even Snoop Dogg, you know, you compare Snoop to Ice Cube, or shit, well, I can't really, maybe MC Ren, if you go MC Ren versus Cube, MC Ren win all the time.
All the time.
Trey,
and it's, and MC Ren doesn't have nearly the namesake behind him as some of the other guys, just because of the way they stayed in the media and the pop culture. But yeah, I think slightly biased just for us for having the East Coast heritage. You know what I mean? But I mean,
put him against Biggie, dude. Like Biggie had the flow, but Ice Cube had like the wordage. He was able to get more words in.
Yeah.
But Biggie had an impeccable flow, which is something Ice Cube.
Well, it's also too the style of rap that a lot of these guys were headed towards.
Yeah.
I think Tupac was obviously the golden child of West Coast hip hop to keep them in a sense of real gangster rap credibility, and obviously he did some work that became a little more user friendly, I guess you could say. But then we talked later too, like the Game. The Game really put West Coast hip hop back on the map, and he did it in a style that I could put up there with any of like my top artists of that scene.
Yeah,
you know,
and even more recently with like Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not a big Kendrick Lamar fan by any means, but like what he has done for West Coast rap has been pretty fucking.
Yeah, and I think that's
really
important. Yeah, because again, I love just going back because growing up in the '90s and being a part of it, but so young. Not really understanding it, and then I hit the 2000s, got into that scene and learned about like how much effort these guys put into their music and how much it was like a pride thing and trying to be the best and just all the battles and stuff. Like you just don't have that in the rap scene anymore. It's just really, you got dudes literally snitching on their own fucking people and then still out there like, I'm a fucking, you had two of the most prominent rappers out there get pardoned by the president. Like this is the world we live in now. Like, come on.
Is the Game the Dimebag Darrell of West Coast rap?
Hit us up on our
social medias.
So but overall, you like the album?
Oh yeah, I really liked it.
Phenomenal, right?
I did really, really like it.
Yeah.
My standout track, which is also going to be my recommendation. Woo Banger.
Yeah. Good
yeah,
song.
Dude. It was a really good album.
It's a great album.
On this day in music history.
On this day, February 15th, 1944, Michael Avery, also known as Mick, the British rock drummer from the Kinks, is born in East Molesey, Surrey.
Surrey. Or is that Surrey?
Whatever, dude. It's like Necroceras, Necroceras. It's, you gotta forgive me for the pronunciation. Kinks, though.
Influential band.
Yeah.
I think the Kinks are probably just as important as the Beatles.
Well, they also had one of the best songs covered by your favorite band.
Yes, they did.
That song, put that song on the fucking map.
Hell yeah. Well, that's the thing, too. It's kind of funny because not often do you have a band that'll cover a song. I mean, I'm not going to get a tangent about Van Halen, but not often do you have a song that's covered by another artist that the original artist says likes their version better than his.
All on the Watchtower is the only one I can think of. Bob Dylan just came straight out and said, Jimmy fucking killed that.
Well,
Yeah, there's no.
Like honestly, that was the song that got me into Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah. Well, what are you taking? I mean, we're getting off topic a little bit, but what are you taking? Fucking Bob's harmonica solo or Jimi Hendrix wailing away on his fucking strap? I mean, come on, dude.
Like honestly, dude. Like I didn't like Hendrix for a long time. I never got it. I still kind of don't get it, but I never even gave his music a chance. Well, I never did, and then I started listening, and then I heard All on the Watchtower, and I was like, okay,
he's that good.
Yeah, he's good.
13 years later here.
Speaking of good, 1957, Jake E. Lee. You may have heard me mention this name before. Guitar player for Ozzy Osbourne, most notably for playing on Bark at the Moon and The Ultimate Sin. He was born 1957. Jake E. Lee, one of the most underrated guitar players of the 80s. Definitely one of the most underrated guitar players of Ozzy Osbourne's band.
Yeah, he fell into, like I said, we talked about this to a point where the talent that was in that band was shrouded by just how high the bar was. Because you think about most of these solo projects, typically it's the front man.
Yep.
You know, like Dio's supporting cast doesn't get nearly as much credit, for being as talented as they were, but Ozzy really surrounded himself with arguably some of the best guitar talent of that era.
Oh my God.
I mean, Randy Rhoads is just, and I give Zakk Wylde a lot of shit from time to time, but I'll never deny the fact of how talented he is and how much he really respects, his roots and his influences and how much he, shows that and makes an impression on him.
Yeah.
But the talent that Ozzy surrounded himself with in his solo career has been...
Did you know Jake E. Lee was the original guitar player in RATT?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, he was the original guitar player in RATT, and he was actually roommates with Warren DeMartini.
It's pretty cool because Randy Rhoads was the original guitar player in Quiet Riot, so it's interesting. Like you get all these hair metal guys.
Here's like the little fucking like cesspool of like the '80s glam metal.
Yeah.
So Jake E. Lee was roommates with Warren DeMartini. When Jake left RATT, at that point in time it was called Mickey RATT. He left RATT to play with Ozzy. Warren DeMartini started playing in RATT.
Okay.
Now, Robin Crosley died, right? Carlos Cerveza, who was the guitar player in Quiet Riot that took Randy Rhoads' spot.
What do you have, a hair metal history book?
Dude,
this is pretty, I thought this is off the dome. Folks, he doesn't have any information in front of him. He's just knowing these names and this chronological history.
Dude, this is the YouTube thing I tell you about.
Okay, continue. This is interesting.
Carlos Cerveza, he was the one that took Randy Rhoads' spot in Quiet Riot, is now the guitar player in RATT.
Wow.
So it's just like an ever-ending...
So Jake missed out on the opportunity to be in the Geico commercial.
Yes.
Damn.
However, though, I feel like Jake... I feel like Jake did more of an impact to guitar playing culture and more for his career by playing with Ozzy than he would have with RATT.
100%. But you also have
Round and Round's cool, but it ain't as cool as Bark at the Moon.
It ain't as cool as,
Ultimate Sin.
You could pick, probably 3 songs off of every album that Ozzy's ever done with the Osmosis. I don't know about that.
No, Perry Mason's a good song. See You on the Other Side's a good song.
Yeah, but, we're putting that up to anything off of Diary or
no,
Blizzard or Bark. Yeah,
But yeah, anyways, Jake E. Lee, born this day in 1957.
A respected 7 years later, in 1964, the album Meet the Beatles goes #1, stays #1 for 11 weeks.
Coincidence?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
And the following year...
Yeah, 1965, John Lennon passes his driving test. Now, I don't know the context in this at all. I don't know.
Is there, a long history of John Lennon not being able to drive? Oh, okay.
John, how many times has this been, how many times have you taken this driver's test? This will be the baker's dozen.
Yeah. Let's put this in the context too for the viewers that we obviously use the internet databases to find the information for today's dates and get some of the information. Today was so goddamn dry to the point that we saw that and had to post it on here just in case you didn't know. So if you're ever watching Jeopardy, which rest in peace Alex Trebek, whoever's going to host that, and they come up, what year did John Lennon finally pass his driving test? You can thank us for the answer. February 15th, 1965.
It would be like, I'll take...
Or 64, excuse me. I don't want to give you the wrong answer.
I'll take what is for 400, Alex. The year John Lennon passed his driver's test. What is 1965?
Perfect. 64.
64.
We're on that.
No, it's 65.
No, 64. Oh, it is 65. All right, I was right the first time. Wow. 1965 to clarify, to give you random trivia answers. Yeah, if you're ever on a date and you don't know what the fuck to talk about, by the way, see you wearing a Beatles shirt. Did you
Honestly,
know?
All you really need to do is if you don't have shit to talk about on the way to your date, just throw on a couple episodes of ours.
Oh, yeah.
You'll
find
have
the
more
most
than
random
enough to talk
shit
about.
to talk about.
Did you know that Dave Grohl...
Speaking of random facts that you could use at your next soiree, 1965, Nat King Cole, American singer, dies of cancer at age 49. Now, here's a conversation piece you're not going to bring up unless maybe you got a family member that's suffering. Nat King Cole, could share the same legacy. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately I don't know enough about Nat King Cole to actually kind of throw in any kind of commentary at all.
Yeah, you need to get.
He did a couple Christmas songs.
Yeah, get some. Yeah, you would like Nat King Cole. Very classic vibe music. Grandmother loves Nat King Cole.
Speaking of artists my grandmother loves, 1969, Birdman, whose government name is Brian Williams, is a U.S. record executive and rapper, was born in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Responsible pretty much for the upbringing of what we know as Lil Wayne today.
Yep.
Yeah. I liked Birdman, when I was younger and stuff.
Birdman.
I liked the collaborations they did. They're another one of those acts. What the fuck was the name of the group that they were all in? Cash Money, obviously, but I want to know if Young Money.
Young Money.
I think Young Money was what Lil Wayne established afterwards. I think Cash Money was what Birdman had established, and then that was the group. Because it was like all this
Keep
Southern
filibustering.
hip-hop.
I'll figure this out.
I will filibuster. 1978, who I recommended, I believe, a week or two ago, Kimberly Goss of the band Synergy, who featured, rest in peace, Alexi Leo.
Big timers.
Big timers. Okay. So Kimberly Goss, born 1978, Los Angeles, California. It's cool that this information was on there because I recommended that Synergy album, and I'm telling you right now, if you didn't listen to it and you're a power metal, melodic, death metal, any type of fan, and you want to hear some fucking phenomenal guitar work, the interesting thing about that, a couple of those songs, I did not realize that a lot of their main riffs, like the song I recommended specifically, I Spit on Your Grave, the verse riff, the entire riff is a fucking sweep. He's just sweeping the whole verse. And I got to see like a tutorial of how to play that. I was like, I want to see how easy this song could be.
I can learn that.
I watched like a minute of it, and I'm like, nope, not today. That shit ain't happening.
That's usually what happens watching Alexi play guitar. You're like, yeah, I'm more of a
It
rhythm
sounds
guy.
way easier than it is.
Like I just watch him and I'm like, yep, and I'll just stick to rhythm.
But even his rhythms, it's like, I'm not playing any of that. I'll play the intro riff where I'm just holding fucking open power chords.
It's almost like when you're watching like a guitar tutorial from Lamb of God and you're watching Willie Adler and you're just like, man, I probably shouldn't even be playing guitar anymore.
I've been playing guitar for 7 years. Me looking at my resume saying I'm playing 14.
Yeah.
Still don't even know my scales. I'll probably give up. I should just sell this.
Speaking of selling, in 2016, the 58 Grammy Awards, the best song Grammy Award was given to Ed Sheeran for the song Thinking Out Loud, and 1989 received the best album Grammy, of course, by the one and only Taylor Swift. She was not to be interrupted this year by Kanye West.
No, thank God. 2016, Kanye was getting in the good graces of our ex-president. I think at that point is when he really thought about if he can do it, I can do it. And I actually joked about that when Trump got elected. I thought like, wow, this is going to like open the door for like pop culture figures thinking they just have a shot to run.
Yeah.
I think it was a couple years later or even a year or so later, then that whole thing came out about Kanye with the MAGA hat and sitting there with Trump and everyone was like all fucking dumbfounded by this and it became a huge thing for some fucking reason. But when he ran for president, he was actually on that fucking ballot.
Yeah.
I was like, this is literally like, I picked Kanye too because he was that most vocal, obscure figure to pull something off like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought it was hilarious. But both 1989, I've listened to that album. I've also mentioned I have a guilty pleasure of Taylor Swift. I was not a huge fan of 1989.
Yeah, me either.
I was kind of glad that Tool fucking blew her out of the water when they released their albums in 2018. But
There's no bias there or anything.
No, not at all. Even though that's the worst album Tool's ever released, and I've kind of lost the veil of facade over my fucking ears. Thinking Out Loud by Ed Sheeran, though, great song.
Yeah.
I give him credit for being as simple and repetitive as he is, but for radio hits, that guy's just a fucking hit maker.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of funny too. That song, Shape of You.
Yes.
That song was actually written by Candy Buress. I think her last name is. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyone out there listening, but she's actually on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. She's also the same person that wrote TLC's No Scrubs.
Yeah, I always was a huge fan of Ed Sheeran. Not a huge fan, I guess you say, but a fan since the song The A-Team.
Oh yeah,
all those 2011 album. because it's just, I don't know, there was something about his music, and one day we'll get into like the songs that just have deep-seated memories. But today, speaking of albums,
Yes.
right? We had an episode, and this is kind of what I want to get into, just kind of a definitive moment to be able to understand, some of our favorite artists' discographies, some of the most complete discographies. We talked about this, what makes a really good discography. We talk about albums. We've mentioned bands that just have flawless ones. We have mentioned bands that had a few albums that kind of could not ruin their legacy, but just kind of give them less credibility. But I figure what we could do is we can pick 3 of our personal favorites.
Try this topic again.
Basically, yeah. This is one day, if we ever release outtakes, we'll have an old recording of months ago of this episode going horribly wrong. So we're making a second effort here. I figure we could pick 3 artists of our personal favorites, rank their discographies. Basically, our favorite albums down to our least favorite albums. And it's not to say which ones are horrible. It's just to say these are bands that we like every album by them, but it just had to rank them.
Okay.
And then I figure we would pick a mutual artist where we could rank and see our disagreements.
So,
agreements.
what do you want to do? Just like I'll do one, you do one.
Yeah, you
and
pick
we'll
your
just go
first
back and forth?
artist, and then I'll pick my artist and rank their discographies. And they're obviously bands I'm sure we're all familiar with, so we can discuss.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to make you hum anything to prove your worth, so.
Speaking of Jake E. Lee from earlier,
Yes.
obviously his contributions to Ozzy Osbourne. You got a cough? Oh. His contributions to Ozzy Osbourne are completely unparalleled. Well, I mean, that's probably the wrong word. They're unmatched. He brought Ozzy into the mid-'80s. Like, you listen to, like, Diary and Blizzard, they have, like, a dated sound to them.
Yeah.
You listen to Ultimate Sin or Bark at the Moon.
Of course.
It has, like, a newer edge type sound to it.
Well, that's the thing, and we talk about it. Artists that are able to kind of like maintain their relevance,
Yes,
and continue to evolve, but not completely change to a sense where you're losing what's familiar.
Yep.
You know, which is important, I think, for certain artists.
Yeah, which is actually funny too because Ozzy's had 4 guitar players, or I guess now. No. Randy, Jake, Zach. Oh yeah, 4 guitar players because you have to count Andrew Watt now.
Yeah.
That fucking tool. Anyways, up until the newest album, which is Ordinary Man, it always sounded like Ozzy, no matter who the guitar player was. It had this feel that was undeniable Ozzy Osbourne. So, my list, and I consider this to be the fucking like be all end all for Ozzy fans. I mean, there's gonna be purists out there, and you might disagree with a couple of them. But I feel like Ozzy's essential listens from start to finish. The first album that you should check out is No More Tears. I feel like it is the most commercially successful Ozzy album, but it also has some of the best songs.
So you're ranking that as your number one?
Yes.
Is your number one? Okay.
Followed by Diary of a Madman.
Okay.
Followed by Bark at the Moon. Blizzard of Oz comes after Bark because I feel like Blizzard was a good album, but I also feel like it was kind of like piecemealed. Like no one knew what it was really going to be. No one really had an idea, and it was just like, all right, let's get this done. So that's why Blizzard ranks lower. But after that, then you have No Rest for the Wicked, Zakk Wylde's first effort with Ozzy. Then Black Rain, which is his last effort with Ozzy. Then you have Osmosis, Scream, which was the one-off album he did with Gus G after Zakk Wylde's departure. And, of course, you have, in last place, the one and only Ordinary Man. And honestly...
Yeah, this is funny. We talked about the talent he surrounded himself throughout his entire career.
And then that.
The fact that he became relevant again with an artist like Post Malone.
Yes.
Right? An artist that has a lot of reputation behind him, has a good following to the point where people thought that Post Malone discovered this old man. Basically, not having really understanding.
Get cultured.
Ever since that is when the album really started to take hold that Ozzy was doing some new work. And
yes,
just because of who he has worked with, the opportunity to be on an Ozzy album, the fact that he couldn't do better than what he did is disturbing.
I'm actually surprised Sharon let that shit come out.
That's what I'm saying. This might be the last studio album we get from Ozzy.
Well, I know he's working on something, but I don't know who's going to be on it. I don't know anything about it. I hope it's better than Ordinary Man. I hope it's better than fucking... I hope it's better than No More Tears. I don't see that happening, though.
I don't either.
He's just on a steady decline, and it just really sucks because you look at the Megalodon-ish type albums like No More Tears, Diver, Madman, Bark at the Moon. You know, the three albums I think that spotlight those three particular guitar players. Yeah, I just don't think that there's a chance that he can get back to some shit like that.
Yeah, it's very sad. Very sad.
It sucks because, you know, like I said, No More Tears is the most commercially successful one, but I do feel like pound for pound, like if you were to put like let's say like Mom, I'm Coming Home.
Yeah.
Its equivalent in the Ozzy catalog would probably be Goodbye to Romance.
Of course.
Mom, I'm Coming Home is better.
Yeah. I think what we should do is, too, since we are familiar, so I'll rank, obviously, mine. I think if we disagree with the number one choice from the artist, then we'll say which one was our favorites. Because I want to say all of these except the Doors. You're not a huge Doors fan.
No, I know from talking to you about them, I've learned a decent amount.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do with if we disagree?
Well, no, I'm just saying, I just make mentions because of my favorite Ozzy album personally is Diary of the Madman.
Yeah.
I think the way, like, Over the Mountain, the way it starts, it's just such a good album, dude.
Flying High Again
is just...
That riff is just...
There's just something about that album every time I hear it, and those are the first two tracks too, which makes it even better. It's just right in your face off the rip.
Well, that's the thing. I had to choose No More Tears because Zach's my boy.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I'm gonna discuss the artist that we can definitely come to a disagreement on because I already know that your favorite album is not my favorite album by this band, but the band is. I'm gonna start off with Death because they just have my favorite discography of all time.
Yeah.
And it's not even a bias to say because of the genre blend, because I lean more to punk rock being like my favorite genre. I don't talk about them enough on here. However, the movie we are going to recommend this evening is probably one of my favorite punk documentaries outside of Decline of Western Civilization, which I recommended prior. Notice we're on a kick, SLC punk. Yeah, we're just going to keep going down this hole. So the band obviously...
You know what's funny? I actually wrote down a suggestion too, and it is a punk band as well.
Oh, we're going to save that one because what I'll do it is just perfect. So... the band is Death, obviously. They have a 7 studio album discography that every single album in there is nearly flawless from front to back. And when I say nearly flawless, that doesn't mean there's skippable tracks. There's just some tracks that are just, I could take it or leave it. But still, every album.
It's all listenable.
Yeah, every album is just that good. My number one is Leprosy. We know this. Leprosy, to me, I think... still had that old school blend of death metal with that little thrash punk kick to it before they totally innovated their sound after Spiritual Healing. Making my second favorite Human, because Human is that middle ground between all the way to sound, all the way back to Scream Bloody Gore.
Okay.
So Leprosy, Human, Spiritual Healing, just because that was another Scott Burns production that to me was just phenomenal. Then I went Scream Bloody Gore right in the middle because I think Scream Bloody Gore... just the innovation of it and the way it holds up. And I think also listening to it on a re-release through a vinyl, just kind of giving me a newfound appreciation for how much production value is in that. It's actually very good for its time. And then the last 3. So they were Sound of Perseverance, Symbolic, Individual Thought Patterns, and that's how I rank them. I think Sound of Perseverance is their best outside of Human, their best technical release. Okay. I like it slightly better than Symbolic. They're almost like interchangeable for me. And it's weird, Individual Thought Patterns being my least favorite. For a long time, I held that up to a certain standard. Yeah. Then I got it on vinyl, and I listened to it again, and how fucking compressed that album is compared to everything else fell from, like, top 3 down.
Now, see, Symbolic is my favorite.
That's where I know. Yeah, that's why I want to bring this up.
Symbolic's my favorite.
Because you're more the technical, polished sound of, like, metal, where I, like...
You like the lo-fi fucking nasty
shit.
I
like Varg's fucking, recording on an 8-track in prison black metal. I don't know. There's something about it that just, it gives me that, I feel like I'm in the cabin from Evil Dead. Like the song Evil Dead on Spring Bloody Gore. That's how I feel. Like I just feel like this really, like I'm in an 80s horror movie.
I mean, it's not that I necessarily don't like, like the older stuff and like the way that production stuff, the production techniques and shit were, but... there's just something to where, like individual thought patterns,
Yeah.
symbolic and sound of perseverance, like it like opened up.
But that's the thing. Me and you have the same appreciation for the opposite sounds.
Yes.
Because the technical stuff and the polished stuff, I still highly enjoy. That's why I say, even ranking these albums, it's not to say that they're that bad. It's just to say on preference based, right?
Yeah.
Because if symbolic, if someone, like, if I have it, I'm listening to it. You know, if someone puts it on, I'm enjoying it. It's never at a point where it's, I'm listening to this and I prefer this. It all depends on like a mood base. And I think that's the thing with Death. We talk about bands that were able to adjust and grow in their talents and their sound.
Yeah.
Death has the perfect discography to show the stepping stones, because I remember good old Lemon Line, or what are we calling it? Lemon Rope.
Yeah, lemon cord.
Lemon Cord.
Lemon
that's it.
Cord.
Good old Lemon Cord. I just heard about a band, and then I would have to download their music based on their artist name, because back then it wasn't so easy to look up a discography and find the correct songs.
Exactly.
So I remember the very first song I downloaded by Death was Flesh and the Power It Holds.
That was my first too.
So good, right?
So I was like, what sounds heavy?
Great.
That and Crystal Mountain. Those
Crystal Mountain,
are my first two Death
Yeah.
downloaded songs.
Second one?
butt songs.
But you have to understand. Yeah, you have to understand this though. I listened to Flesh and the Power It Holds. The second song I downloaded was Regurgitated Guts off of Spring Bloody Gore. I thought it was two different fucking bands. I was, because on the Lemon Cord,
Yeah.
it's really difficult to decipher if this
you're
is
just not
really.
sure.
I think you could download like a Lil Wayne song and it's fucking Lupe Fiasco, and you're like, yo, you hear this new Lil Wayne song, and you look like an asshole because your friend's like, bro, what the fuck you listening to? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I downloaded the Misfits, and a Grave song came up and a Danzig song came up. I'm like, this isn't the same fucking band. Lemon Core's pulling a fucking Fugazi on me. But anyway, I think with Death, I mean, even a fan of any genre based, right?
Yeah.
If you have that open book mentality where you can get and diverge and go into something different than what you're accustomed to.
Yeah.
And I think it's even harder because when I was a huge hip hop fan, I had to go through the stepping stones. It started with just alternative, got me into punk got me into thrash got me into heavy metal got me into so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But Death is just, it's so hard to explain of just how much effort you can hear that they put into their work, that every song was given attention to.
And, you know, it's almost like we were talking about earlier with like Pantera. Like every time they put something out, it's undeniable that it's them.
Yes.
And it's just all about you can like hear them like mature.
Oh yeah.
And get better. Like
Absolutely.
as, you know, like in a technical standpoint as the albums progress.
Yes. 100%.
Now I'm about to contradict everything that I was saying about production values and techniques.
Okay.
My band is Lamb of God.
Okay.
My number one is Ashes of the Wake.
100%. 100% agree on that.
Then New American Gospel.
See, I'm more of an As the Palaces.
That's my number 3.
Yeah, that New American Gospel, that's ironic because you just said, the production value. And I think that's the one album where the production value actually hurts it, in my opinion. Because I typically go for that real gritty, raw. But Ashes just sets the bar so high where they sound better with that production.
Well, the thing with Gospel is, at least the way that I go about thinking of it, is that they're fresh on the scene. Like this is this is unheard of.
Well, you gotta hear
Burn.
Burn.
This is like groundbreaking
not including
stuff.
Burn the Priest,
Exactly.
obviously, but yeah, you can hear that they took a little bit of that and really tried to amp it up. And
exactly.
Yeah, Gospel still holds its fucking weight too. I do like that album.
Ashes of the Wake, New American Gospel, As Palaces Burn, Sacrament, Strum Undrang.
I totally agree with. Because it's hard for Sacrament, because I hate on Sacrament, but it's just better than everything that came after that.
Exactly. And then Wrath,
Yeah,
Resolution, and then Self-Titled.
I agree.
I mean,
I agree with that list. That's a very good one.
So the only thing me and you differ on is Gospel and Palaces.
Palaces. The reason why I bought Palaces the other day on CD, it was dirt cheap. And I've listened to Gospel like through a digital format on streaming.
Yeah.
But I went downstairs and I maybe Gospel will change for me if I do the same thing, but I put Palaces on like on a decent system and really got, dude, it's just
Yeah.
Such a fucking good album, man.
And, like, honestly, the only reason I rank Sacrament so high is because it was the first Lamb of God album that I actually heard.
Yeah, Redneck was the first song I ever heard.
So, like, I heard...
And Omerta. Omerta just really got me.
Like, I heard Redneck first, then I heard Walk With Me in Hell.
So, you heard Sacrament songs.
Yeah, I heard
Omerta
Sacrament
was the
first.
very first song I ever heard, and I actually
If
thought
I would have heard Omerta first, it would have been an entirely different fucking story.
Well, I mean, Ashes is still your favorite. It's just...
Yeah, but the trajectory of my life would have been different.
Oh, yeah, because...
I would have been like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. I remember when I first heard it, I thought the intro was Dane Cook speaking. Whoever appeals against the law. I thought that was Dane Cook because his voice sounds so familiar. And at the time, Dane Cook just came out with that stand-up Vicious Circle. So I was like, oh, he's part of this like death metal crew.
That just shows how old we are, how dated we are.
God
Dane
damn.
Cook.
You sound like...
Dane Cook was popular.
I remember getting the cigarettes down at the vending machine at the bowling alley. We're going to start sounding like those people.
Yeah.
Like gas is going to be like $7 a gallon. I remember gas was $3.92.
I remember buying a pack of smokes for $6.
Yeah, right. That's how it, dude. Now it's...
I remember you get a pack of Mavericks for $6.10.
You had a $5 bill in your pocket, you were getting a pack of smokes. $10 could have got you a full tank.
Shit, remember you could buy smokes for $5 in Philly?
Yeah. 100%. Dude, the Wawa in Collingswood, there was a time, literally $5 after tax was the equal value for a pack of Marlboro. I would go down there with $10 when I was like 13 years old, and that was like my drug of choice, I guess you could say. I was smoking cigarettes. I'd sneak out of the house, go to my boys that were like 19, because 21 now is just...
Yeah.
America's fucking people over here. Yeah. But I totally get down with that list. That's a great list.
Thank you.
I'm going to switch it in Tupac now.
Okay.
I think Tupac, because his discography is what I was bringing up earlier when I said we were getting into this on the topic. Tupac, to me, it's really hard to rank him because I treat Nas and Biggie, I just have that East Coast connection of just hip hop.
Yeah.
I think there's just something about it that makes me feel involved. It makes me feel like the realities. It has such a level of talent and effort put into it that there's just a more fitting feel. But Tupac, to me, is the golden boy of the West Coast hip hop scene.
Yes.
He really put them on the map. He really gave them a lot of credibility. And for all the other artists that came out during that time, Tupac has the most extensive and well-respected discography, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The thing with Tupac is the first one I'm going to say is probably not anyone's favorite or a very small margin is Tupacalypse Now, which is his first release. The reason being is because we talk about production value again. This album works for me. Ironically enough, what got me into it was because I heard I Don't Give a Fuck on Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. It was one of the songs on one of the radio stations, and that song got me every fuck. It was just such a good song. It was one of those songs where if you're driving in San Andreas, I'm skipping the radio until that song comes on.
Yeah.
Like, that song just got me. The second one I put in because of California Love. I think that song was like a definitive moment for like West Coast hip hop.
Yeah, it was.
Just the collaboration, the video, everything about it, the Mad Max setup. It was so fucking cool. So All Eyes on Me is my number 2. Number 3, Me Against the World. I think Me Against the World is either All Eyes on Me or Me Against the World are probably those two Tupac albums that people could say, you know, like, for instance, I have personal favorites, and then I could say, but this is their best work. And it's going to come down to Me Against the World or All Eyes on Me or just those albums you'll recommend to somebody, even though they're not your personal favorites. Then strictly for my expletive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's my...
Strictly for my beat.
Yeah, that's my number 4. And then last one, obviously, Don Illuminati. I think Tupac's career, the way it went, was almost perfect. And the sad thing about it is it's the same thing with Biggie. I honestly think if both of them stayed alive, Tupac would have had the more successful career. I think Biggie, his flow and everything about it, he would have had to have made some differences. But Tupac was able to be versatile enough to create those club hits as well as those gritty hip-hop hits and really stay relevant with both cultures of the scene.
I agree with that.
So, but at the end of the day, it's like I said, it's still hard for me to pick even Nas, you know, or Tupac over Nas, or Tupac over Biggie. It's really tough with some of those because their albums that they put out are just that phenomenal.
Now, it is funny you say that because it's never been explained like that to me ever.
Yeah.
I do agree with that. I do feel like if them two were still alive, Biggie would not have changed with the times at all.
He would have been, but that's the thing. I don't think that would have necessarily hurt him as much. I just think
he'd become the Slayer of rap.
Yeah. But Biggie was that good, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like, how long could he have kept that up as opposed to eventually having to create, for instance.
I mean,
Lil Jon and fucking Ludacris.
he did start, with like the Junior Mafia and shit.
Yeah.
Like, so there was
P.
like...
Diddy would, but you could tell anytime he hooked up with Diddy, I mean, like Juicy, for instance, right?
Yeah.
That he had some of those songs, but you could tell that's just not what his strong suit was.
Exactly.
He made those songs, but a lot of that was Junior Mafia really kind of creating an evolution of Biggie himself. And it's how long could it have kept up where Tupac's songs still had the versatility where
he was able to do whatever he wanted.
Absolutely. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, once it hit the 2000s, everything became about like club hits and really lost the, like, I mean, even 50 Cent was one of those last artists that could release an album that was straight club hits, but still had like a gangster rap attitude towards it.
I feel like I could have seen Tupac going down that rap
100%
route rather.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you think about the trajectory of, like, Death Row Records and stuff, Suge would have been like, we got to get on this.
Yeah.
We got to get on this club
And
rap.
it's not even to say that Tupac, I would have said, would have been better than Biggie. I might have liked Biggie's shit better compared to what Tupac may have released later on. But I think just in the world of pop culture, I think Tupac would have just had a more successful career when it was all said and done.
Yeah, Tupac definitely got the shaft in the whole East Coast versus West Coast
100%,
thing.
man.
But,
I mean, that's obviously the Death Row setup.
All that stupid shit.
Yeah.
But I think the only thing I would disagree with is I would have to put All Eyes on Me, number one.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's tough
Like,
for
I
me.
do like Tupacalypse Now, don't get me wrong. Don't ask me to hum the song or ask me how any of them go. But
I think, like I said, Tupacalypse Now just has that personal favorite.
yes.
But if I was going to say, yo, you need to listen to Tupac, and as opposed to because I like to recommend albums, because you could do a compilation. You could just say, listen to these specific songs.
Exactly.
But I think an album, you can get a better idea of like how talented the artist is away from the songs that you hear on a repetitive basis. And All Eyes on Me, to me, would be the album to say, check this one out first.
Yes.
But Tupacalypse Now just has a special place in my heart.
Now, the following in the, your footsteps here with rap, my last artist here is Eminem.
Yeah.
Now,
he's got a good discography to run.
I feel like my list will probably like if you were to write an Eminem list and I did, I feel like they would kind of mirror each other a little bit. Eminem Show is number one.
Depends.
Okay.
The only one that's going to fuck this all up is where you put Encore.
Oh, no, I
Go
think,
through it.
I think you'll agree.
Okay,
with
go, you can go through it.
So Eminem Show's number one.
Okay.
It's just one of those undeniable, like, Nevermind Black album.
Well, the thing
type
about
albums.
and this is the thing. I thought you were going to pick this, so I had it in my head of what I was going to say at your number one. I had the argument myself between Marshall Mathers LP and Eminem Show, right?
Marshall Mathers LP is my number two.
That's what I'm saying. I would have to pick Eminem Show just for two reasons. A, because of just how great it is, obviously.
Yeah.
Second thing is, it was... I think everybody's first CD they bought for some reason is like Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park or some shit. But my second album I ever purchased, and I fucking made sure to get the explicit copy because I found out about that later on. I was a small kid at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember being in a fucking Walmart, or a Kmart probably back then, and slipped it to my dad. I was like, I want to get this album. And he had no fucking clue. My dad wasn't paying attention to the times, what explicit CDs were like, or what artists were like that day. He still thinks I'm listening to like Bob Seger or Phil Collins.
He probably like got in the car like, hey, do you want to hear this CD? And you're like, no, Dad, I'll wait till I get home.
We'll wait till I get home. But yeah, I slipped that in one day, and that was the first album that I listened to. And shortly after that, I got Grand Theft Auto 3, and I really thought one day I was just going to be this... I'm getting into hip hop. Eminem really put me in a position where I thought like I
think he
wanted
did
to
it
be a
to all
rapper
of
as
us.
a kid. Yeah, dude. The Eminem Show is just too memorable.
If he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. And then I watched 8 Mile. I'm like, wow, my life was nothing like that. I get it now why I can't do what he did. Jesus.
That's so funny.
Papa Doc would have ripped my asshole apart, dude. Jesus Christ. Couldn't hip hop out.
But Papa Doc had one.
I would have been the Cheddar Bob of 8 Mile if that was my life. I'm a Cheddar Bob. Anyway, all right, so Eminem Show, and then I'm Marshall Mathers LP.
Marshall Mathers LP.
Great.
Slim Shady LP.
100%.
Infinite.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Kamikaze.
Okay.
Relapse.
Yeah.
Recovery.
Yeah.
Marshall Mathers LP 2. Music to be Murdered By. Encore. Revival.
Pretty close.
I mean,
The only one I think
Encore, I can't put it dead last because Revival was just that
really bad. I agree.
Yeah.
The only thing is, I'm pretty sure, and I'd have to go back, but I'm pretty sure Infinite and Recovery would probably be swapped for me. I think Recovery because Relapse was just. I remember when that came out and it was a very exciting moment because Eminem was like making that revival from like what Encore established for him in that goofy sense, and it still had those repetitive goofy moments in it, I guess you could say. Recovery to me was almost like him trying to return to form. There's just something about Recovery that I always enjoyed. Infinite is very good. The thing with Infinite is that has that Ed Sheeran collaboration song on it, right?
No, Infinite's the first album. Like pre-Marshall Mathers LP.
Oh, Infinite.
Yeah, Infinite.
Why am I thinking of what's the album that had
Revival?
Revival.
Yeah, Revival's
okay,
the one you're
difference.
thinking of.
Yeah, I'm way off then.
Infinite,
I apologize.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
Fucking Infinite is it's like the building block.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it is what Eminem was. I couldn't put that down low. I couldn't put it below Kamikaze or Relapse or Recovery.
Yeah.
But however, I couldn't put it up to Slim Shady, Marshall Mathers LP or Eminem.
And that's funny because Slim Shady LP and Marshall Mathers LP are almost interchangeable depending on the mood. But I think like the way you cemented it, I think Marshall Mathers LP just overall is the one I would go to more. Yes. The way I establish things and how much I actually enjoy them personally, because you could go out of your way and just say Marshall Mathers LP is my favorite because it's just the most iconic. It's not Eminem show. It's not the most cliche one. The way I establish things is when I go to purchase a vinyl by an artist, what's the first one I'm searching for?
Yeah.
So, like psychologically, subconsciously, there's always a moment where, all right, I don't have any Eminem albums. The first one I search, and usually it's Marshall Mathers LP. So when I think about it in hindsight, the only reason why I would pick Eminem Show better, even though that would be the case, is just because of when I listened to it, the age I was at, and it was new. You know, it wasn't, we were, 25 and we're going back to 95 to like discover artists. Like kids that are born in 2000 now, they're 20 years old.
Yeah.
So they grew up throughout the 2000s and like didn't hit adolescence and prime teenagehood until that album was already like
gone.
15 years old?
Yeah, exactly.
So
before it was on fucking classic rock radio.
This album was dead, like an album that there was no streaming.
It was
you had
a
to buy it and listen to
moment.
It. Yeah, you had to buy it and listen to it.
Like the way I see Eminem shows the same way that people see Nirvana's Nevermind or Metallica's Black Album.
Absolutely.
Or, I don't know, Alice in Chains' Facelift or Pearl Jam's 10.
Yep.
What have you. I see Eminem show like that.
And the cool thing about it was, you
Michael
figured out
Jackson's
with
Thriller.
Hunter, you made Thriller. The cool thing about it is you figure with streaming, we talk about this all the time, where an artist is about to release an album, so they put out one song here, 2 songs there. Eventually, there's 5 songs of the 9 songs of the album that you can listen to.
Yeah.
Back then, you didn't have that luxury, but you did have MTV that would say new music video. Remember when they put up the clip, like new, and then Without Me came out.
Yeah.
When Without Me came out and you knew a new Eminem album was coming and the only thing you had to go on was hoping that music video was going to play, which when it was new, it played quite a bit. But I remember waking up at 6 a.m., turn on MTV, getting ready for school in like the fucking 5th, 6th grade or whatever I was in. Thought it was the coolest shit ever. And then when that album dropped, you know what I mean? That's just, I think that's why that album, too, I agree, is definitely my favorite overall.
And pound for pound, dude, there's not a skippable song on there.
No.
Maybe that's a lie. I wouldn't listen to Soldier.
I still like Soldier.
Soldier's my least favorite track on that album.
Probably is too.
Then Say Goodbye to Hollywood.
That's probably my least favorite.
Yeah. And then, but everything else is fine. Like even the skits are funny as shit.
Yeah.
This is by far the most incredible thing I've ever heard.
That album, man.
Amazing.
Till I Collapse, White America.
Square Dance.
Square Dance is phenomenal, dude.
Till I Collapse.
And that's a good album, too, in the sense of, like, when artists get involved with politics and the way they're able to incorporate into their music of what's relevant at the time.
Yes.
Eminem took it to a point where he made it interesting enough and really knew his shit to be able to create this music and have it be relevant. Because nowadays it's just...
trash.
Yeah, it's not enjoyable.
Call it as it is. It's fucking garbage.
Now... My last artist is... I don't know if I'm going to switch this because I think you are familiar with the artist I might want to do. Let me ask you so we can talk about this more extensively. The Doors or Tool?
I know just as much about both bands.
Okay.
I mean, I like Tool more than the Doors.
All right, I'm going to do the Doors since they're just probably my favorite band overall.
Okay.
I'll keep it that simple. So I rank this as their second release as my favorite, Strange Days.
Okay.
Strange Days, it's got Moonlight Drive on it. Love Me Two Times. And then When the Music's Over, which is the last track, it's similar to The End in their self-title. It's like an 11-minute song. And it's just so, like, there's something about Strange Days where vibe-wise, it's just perfect. It's a perfect album. It's got every sense that you want from a Doors album. I think it is arguably their best work. However, the second one I picked is Waiting for the Sun. Then I went self-title at number 3 because the last 3, Morrison Hotel I ranked, then LA Woman, and then their last, in my opinion, is Soft Parade, which has Come on, now touch.
Yeah.
Like, I think they got really goofy in that era for a bit. And then LA Woman, I ranked that right above it because I think LA Woman is great, but compared to everything else, like Jim Morrison was losing it, and you could tell. But the music still held up. And then there's obviously 3 albums that came out posthumously. An American Prayer, which was basically spoken word poetry of Jim Morrison. Then they released 2 albums without Jim, which were Other Voices and Full Circle. And
I like Morrison Hotel.
Morrison Hotel is phenomenal. I think that's the thing with these bands I think we picked is that you make them enough to know that every album you should listen to with the exception of the last 3. I mean, American Prayer by the Doors is good. Full Circle and Other Voices without Jim Morrison I don't think should ever have
It's
been
not the Doors.
created. Yeah. But everything that he did and he was a part of and that music alone as overrated as you could classify them because of the notoriety that Jim Morrison has, the discography is just that great. Now, before we close, a mutual artist that we're both going to rank. And we can go back and forth and say our first. I think Alice in Chains is the best one to rank. And we're going to include EPs, obviously, and we're going to include the live set because every artist we did was just studio albums. But Alice in Chains' discography is condensed enough to add all that in there because it's just as reputable as their studio work.
Well, my one, the only reason I had to pick it is because it has the best of everything on it, Unplugged.
I figured.
I think Unplugged is the best, like the best not studio album.
Yes.
And like I said, the only reason is because of the songs that are on there. Like,
of course.
If they released that as an album, like if it wasn't Unplugged and it was actually a studio album with all those fucking songs, holy shit, dude. It would be the greatest album ever.
Yeah, there's nothing that could compare to that.
Probably my number 2 would have to be Facelift, then Self-Titled, Dirt, Sap. No, hold on.
You miss my number 1, which is ironic.
All right, so Facelift.
Number 2.
Number 3 is going to be Self-Titled, Jar of Flies, Dirt, Sap.
Okay. See, my number 1...
It's not that I hate Sap. It's just...
Sap is my last. I'll put that as well. That's what I mean.
It's the
Every
weakest
artist
out
that
of
we're
all.
ranking is just the weakest of their discography. But again, it's when I talked about reinventing the steel.
And obviously, we're not talking about William Duvall era Alice in
No, we're
Chains.
keeping that out just for the simple sake of the more notable to go into this because everything's going to rank higher to the Duvall stuff anyway.
Exactly.
Just in my personal opinion. But number 1 for me is Jar of Flies.
Okay.
I think Jar of Flies, even though it's an EP, it has the most... How do I put to me that's an Alice in Chains album. That is, you get to hear every
It's dark.
beat of their because this is the thing. My number 2 is Facelift. Facelift I think is the definitive Alice in Chains album just to like, okay, you never listened to this band? Go listen to this because it's enough work. And then if you can digest that, then I'm going to say Jar of Flies because that is my personal favorite.
Okay, yeah.
Number 3, I'm putting as Unplugged. And the same reason why. Because we're concluding this, I think that's I'm a big fan of live music to really establish how good these people are because you figure most artists today that go into a studio that are able to manipulate not only their instruments but their voices, a live show could make or break you.
Yeah.
100%. And I think they're Unplugged. We talk about the debate obviously between theirs and Nirvana's, but just because of the song choices, how well it was done, how great it sounds. That's got to be my number 3.
The mix was incredible.
Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. My number 4 is Dirt. I think the reason more so I put this over Self-Title is because of the relation. We talked about harmonies, right, with artists. And I did say, I don't know if I said that Junkhead was the worst song on the album because I didn't mean that. I meant Sick Man. I think Sick Man is a fucking garbage song.
Sick Man's
but
garbage,
Junkhead,
period.
man, is such a good fucking song, dude. And just the vocal harmonies throughout that
Amazing.
album. I mean, Wood, Rooster, obviously the hits that we know and love. It's just that album to me is just so good. Then I go Self-Title. I think Self-Title and Dirt are almost interchangeable.
Yeah.
Same way Jar of Flies and Facelift are almost interchangeable because they're just such good albums. And then Sap being...
Yeah, I mean...
There's just something about Sap. Like, Got Me Wrong is a
not
great
bad.
song, but...
Brother.
There's
Right
a
Turn.
lot of good songs on that, but when you put that up to everything else that they've done, they're another band where I say they set the bar so goddamn high that even great work can be looked at as lesser than.
Honestly, though, one of my favorite songs in their whole discography is Right Turn.
It's a great song.
I love the Chris Cornell aspect of it, dude. Like, it's just a good fucking song.
That's the same thing way I feel about Jar of Flies because the way the Unplugged opens as well as the way Jar of Flies second song. Because the way Jar of Flies starts with Rotten Apple, it's just so... And then
That's one
goes
of my
right
favorite
in a
songs
nutshell.
in
A
their
nutshell is
discography.
just such like a happy, depressing song. They keep this upbeat tempo, but it's just the lyrical content that Liam was providing, and the melodies are just so eerie. Like Alice in Chains could really create a whole sense of euphoria and a very eerie vibe that not many bands of that era could really establish.
You know, it's just one of those things. Like, I say it all the time. Like, pound for pound, Alice in Chains is the best grunge band. Like, 100%.
Well, Mudhoney is the only grudge band.
Yeah.
That's that. We know this.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Alice in Chains, and that's the thing for me. They are the most versatile band to really establish themselves to so many different aspects of cultures and scenes. Were the same way Motorhead. Motorhead was really respected by the metal community as well as the punk community, which was a very hard thing to really gain credibility for. And Alice in Chains, you could have metal fans. Yeah. You could have punk fans. You could have the 90s alt fans. Like, there was so many aspects to Alice in Chains in so many dimensions that there's no way you can't not like them. If you're a fan of that scene, it's just impossible.
Yeah.
But yeah, very that's our ranking list here at
This is pretty
Rage
good.
Nation. Yeah.
Yeah.
This was a great topic. Very well done, polished.
Amazing topic.
What are your favorite artists? And what are your favorite albums by those artists?
Yeah, do you agree with what we had to say? Would your list differ from either of ours?
Are we retarded and couldn't come up with a correct list, and you feel that Jar of Flies should be nowhere near the top and that Eminem show is garbage?
Yeah, exactly. Is Revival the number one Eminem album of all time?
Do you prefer Wrath over Ashes of the Wake?
You know, like, I'm not going to sit here and, like, you know, like, boast ourselves and, like, we're the shit or whatever, but I do feel like if we say something, it should be taken pretty fucking seriously.
Put it this way. I bought a Siri HomePod yesterday.
Okay.
Then, you know, they're like Alexas, but they're Apple. And I was thinking about the investment. Yeah. I was thinking about the investment, and then I was thinking in hindsight of, you know, the utilization to listen to music. And I started thinking about what I do on a daily basis, talking about credibility with terms of music. If I wake up at 8:30, I probably have music on. Like, let's say I'm up at 8:30, I go to bed at, like, let's say 11.
Yeah.
Between those hours, I have something playing, and something either new or something in a full, complete album history, not a playlist of just songs I've heard 1,000 times because I'm trying to branch out. Probably 90% of my day I have music on. I mean, that's what I'm saying. So these recommendations don't just come with like, oh, I went on Rate Your Music and listened to some reviews and quickly gave it. No, I listened to these fucking albums.
So, if you don't agree with what we have to say, like I said, I don't feel like we are the be-all, end-all, but I do feel like if we recommend something, or even as far as what we did here with ranking discographies, I feel like our suggestions shouldn't be taken lightly.
That's what I'm saying. This isn't even a sense of like elitist attitude. This is really just understanding that, in all honesty, the reviews that we produce come with a strong sense of confidence in that we know these albums inside and out. We've listened to them enough. We've had enough to be able to compare and understand. And, you know, obviously, there's going to be disagreements. I mean, people just feel certain things are better than others. And that's the thing about me is I respect that. You know, you could be in a metalcore, I could be in a traditional death metal, but I'll never once deny the opportunity to listen to something, even if it goes against my better judgment.
Exactly.
And we talked about that in a
Like,
previous
you remember
episode.
when I showed you Winds of Plague? You're
100%.
like, holy shit.
It's actually fucking good. It was the same thing, and I bring it up every goddamn time with Parkway Drive because of the scene that they were in. I was very anti fucking Clearview establishment, whatever you want to call it. Every goddamn kid in there, and then I got into it. But not the scene itself, but the music, and that's what it's all about. You know, I just really, at the end of the day, regardless of what it is, music's music, and I give it an opportunity.
Exactly.
It's important.
So, speaking of music, we're going to roll into our suggestions of the week here. My suggestion for this week is to check out the Lamb of God album, 7, Sturm und Drang. The song is my personal favorite.
Please.
512.
Fuck, dude, that...
Dude, it's
I
just
have
amazing.
it on a playlist. We talk
It's
about like
such a good
driving
song.
tunes. That riff.
Yeah. Dude, it's just amazing.
Oh,
Like,
dude,
even the chorus is so good.
Oh my god, dude, so good.
Can't recognize myself.
Just because we were on the talk of hip hop, I'm gonna stick on the East Coast side. The 1998 release, "Capital Punishment" by Big Punisher, also known as Big Pun. The song I'm going to recommend is just simply probably just the favorite song on the album. You know the song, by the way. You just don't know you know the song, but you know this song.
Okay.
It's called Twins, also known as Deep Cover 98. Also features Fat Joe. Probably one of the best verses Big Pun has ever done is in this, and it's so iconic, and his flow in this song and the collab with Fat Joe is just that good.
Fat Joe's somebody no one ever talks about.
I was going to bring that up. I think that could be a topic of artists that just like disappeared.
Fell under the radar.
They're still
Fell
there.
off the
Because I
radar.
thought like Young Jeezy, for instance.
Yeah.
Rick Ross. Like there's so many artists
What happened to Chingy?
they just disappeared. They had no like moment of
He was chilling at the Holiday Inn and he just never came back.
Came out. He became Hotel California.
Pretty much.
You can check it.
Is Holiday Inn Hotel California too?
Never leave. Anyway, so yeah, Capital Punishment, Big Pun, Twins, Deep Cover.
Nice. Our group suggestion for this week is coming in the form of
another punk documentary. I'm just been on a big kick. This one I was gonna recommend instead of Decline of Western Civilization, but I think that one should open the door first because this one will have more controversial aspects to the history of the United Kingdom and the punk establishment over there. But the documentary is the 1983 release, directed by Christopher Collins. It is called UKDK, a film about punks and skinheads. Now, here's the thing with this. The soundtrack for this fucking, and in the live sessions of this, have so many excellent punk bands. The Exploited, The Addicts, Chaos UK, Disorder, The Business, The Verruchers, Vice Squad, Blitz, Peter and the Test Tube Babies. There's so many good fucking punk bands that if you're ever gonna get into the scene and you need to know like if you're out there listening to Green Day and fucking Pennywise and you know Bad Religion, the modern pop-ish closer to punk than you know Newfound Glory or some shit.
Rancid.
You need to understand your roots. I think Decline and UKDK are the two best punk rock documentaries that you can find that really give you a sense of the scene and the establishment of the culture. Very important watches.
Well, on that note, I guess that kind of wraps it up for this week here on Rage Against the Mainstream podcast. Like I mentioned before, if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can find us on our social media accounts. Instagram and Twitter at RATM Podcast and Facebook.com/RATM Podcast. You can also find us on our website, ratmpodcast.wixsite.com/RATM Podcast. And, you know, we're still constantly taking submissions for bands, artists, any genre, honestly. You want to get a spotlight on the show, you want to, you know, get your music out there.
You want to come on here and just talk shit to us?
Yeah, we're open.
Whatever you want.
We're open. Accepting Skype calls and Zoom chats and
anything. WebEx, whatever
OnlyFans
you
coming
got.
soon.
Yep.
Yeah, but on that note, this is another episode of Rage Against the Mainstream Podcast for the books. As always, I'm Bill.
I'm Steve.
Have a good night, guys. Thanks for listening.